effective immediately. My name is Randall, aged 47, and for 15 years I've been overseeing client interactions at Brimville Bioworks. When the new director, Jessica, uttered those words in front of my entire crew, I just nodded, my hands resting firmly on the conference table. I hope the client pitch goes smoothly on Friday, I said. Silence fell over the room. My team, folks I'd recruited, mentored, and watched rise from entry-level staff to department heads, kept their eyes on the table. Jessica's gaze sharpened. She was 32, armed with an MBA from some prestigious institution, hired 3 months ago to streamline operations with no prior experience in biotech. "What's that supposed to mean?" she asked. I gave a faint smile. "You'll sort it out." I walked to my office and began packing. 23 years of my career condensed into 2 cardboard boxes, pictures from successful product rollouts, plaques from happy clients. The coffee mug my daughter gave me, inscribed with "World's Greatest Dad." Jessica lingered in the doorway, as if she wanted to speak but couldn't find the words. "Randall, about the Hollowgate account," she started. "Not my concern anymore," I replied, sealing the first box with tape. She left me alone after that. My team came by one at a time. They didn't say much, just quiet handshakes and promises to keep in contact. Bate, my lead analyst, stayed the longest. "This isn't right," she murmured. "It's just business," I told her, but we both knew it wasn't. I'd sensed this coming for weeks. Since Jessica's arrival, she'd been chipping away at my authority in subtle ways, arranging meetings without including me, challenging my choices in front of clients. Last week, she told upper management my traditional methods were slowing the company down. What she didn't know was that I'd been documenting everything, every slight, every attempt to sideline me. I'd also been preparing for the worst. In 15 years of handling multi-million-dollar accounts, you learn to anticipate every scenario. I loaded my boxes into my pickup and drove home. My wife, Helen, was waiting with coffee and a look that said she already knew what had happened. "How bad is it?" she asked. "Could be worse," I said. But sitting in my kitchen, staring at those boxes, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not anger, not sorrow, something keener. Jessica had made a grave error, a costly one. And she wouldn't realize it until Friday morning when Hollowgate Systems called, asking where their pitch was. The pitch only I knew how to deliver. I'd started at Brimville fresh out of college. Back then, it was a small outfit with big ambitions and bigger challenges. The founder, William Brimville, took a chance on a young guy with no experience but plenty of drive. My first 5 years were spent learning the ropes, lab processes, regulatory standards, client psychology. By 30, I was leading the client relations department. By 35, I was the go-to person for companies needing biotech solutions quickly and correctly. I'd built connections that kept Brimville afloat during the 2008 downturn. While competitors went under, we prospered because clients trusted me. Helen understood the demands, the late-night calls from international clients, the weekend trips to lock in new deals. She raised our daughter, Casey, while I built something meaningful, something that supported our family and employed 63 people. But things shifted when William retired 2 years ago. His son, Marcus, became CEO and brought in consultants who spoke in jargon and viewed staff as numbers. Jessica was one of those consultants, convincing Marcus she could overhaul our client engagement approach. The red flags were there from the start. She'd show up to client meetings unprepared, then interrupt my presentations with suggestions that didn't make sense. She restructured my filing system without asking. Worst of all, she started holding calls with my top clients, claiming she was evaluating their satisfaction. 3 weeks ago, I came in early and overheard her on the phone with someone from corporate. "Randall's ways are outdated," she said. "Clients respect him, but they need new ideas. I can deliver the same outcomes with less overhead." Less overhead meant slashing my team. People like Bate, who'd worked late to master the Hollowgate account details, or Tom, who'd learned Mandarin to better connect with our Shanghai partners. I should have confronted her then. Instead, I did what I always did, focused on the work. The Hollowgate pitch was our biggest of the year, a $30 million contract for custom biosensors. I'd spent 8 months preparing, forging ties with their technical team, understanding their precise needs. Jessica knew about the meeting, but not the specifics. To her, pitches were just slides and generic talking points. She didn't grasp that Hollowgate's chief technology officer despised formal presentations, or that their procurement director only trusted vendors who spoke her language. Technical, precise, no nonsense. The irony was flawless. Jessica fired me to appear bold and forward-thinking. But on Friday morning, when Hollowgate asked for Randall specifically, she'd learned the difference between managing staff and nurturing relationships. Thursday night, I couldn't sleep. Not from anxiety, but anticipation. Helen found me in the kitchen at 2 a.m., sitting with coffee and my laptop. "You're scheming something," she said, "just thinking." She sat across from me. 22 years of marriage taught her when to prod and when to wait. This was a waiting moment. Jessica called earlier, I finally said, left 3 voicemails. What did she want? Details about the Hollowgate pitch. Helen smirked. She'd been there for every late night, every weekend I'd spent building those client ties. She understood what I'd created better than anyone. What did you tell her? Nothing. I'm not her employee anymore. That's when it sank in. The full weight of Jessica's actions. She hadn't just let me go. She'd erased 15 years of institutional knowledge. Client preferences, technical details, relationship dynamics that took years to cultivate. The Hollowgate account wasn't just about a pitch. It was about trust built through countless small interactions, like knowing their lead engineer preferred technical sketches over flowcharts, or that their CEO prioritized implementation timelines over cost savings. Jessica thought she could improvise, show up with a generic pitch deck, and charm her way through a $30 million deal. She had no clue that Hollowgate's team expected the detailed technical breakdown I'd promised them, the one that existed only in my head and in notes they'd never locate. I opened my laptop and checked my calendar. Hollowgate was set for 10 a.m. Friday. By 11 a.m., Jessica would be in Marcus's office, trying to explain why their biggest client of the year walked out after 20 minutes. My phone buzzed, a text from Bate. "Jessica's been in your office all day hunting for files. She's freaking out." I replied, "Files are on the server. She has access to everything," which was true. She could see contracts, basic client info, standard templates. What she didn't have was context, the human element that turned data into relationships. I poured another coffee and opened a new document on my laptop. Started drafting a formal resignation letter, the one I should have written months ago when I first saw Jessica's game. But I stopped, deleted it. Why make it easy for her? Instead, I opened my personal email and began contacting connections at other biotech firms, people who'd been trying to recruit me for years. By morning, I had 3 interview requests and 1 job offer. Helen woke at 6 a.m. and found me still at the kitchen table, now dressed for the day. "Going somewhere?" she asked. "Coffee shop downtown. Good Wi-Fi, quiet spot for calls." She kissed my forehead. "Make them pay." I didn't plan to make anyone pay. I planned to let Jessica handle that herself. Friday morning at 9:47 a.m., I was at Brewster's Coffee House downtown when my phone started ringing. Jessica. I let it go to voicemail. She called again and again. By 10:15, she'd called 7 times. At 10:23, Bate called. "Randall, where are you?" "The Hollowgate folks are here and Jessica's falling apart. She can't find the technical specs they're asking for." "They're in the system," I said, stirring my coffee. "She says they're not. She's been up all night searching. Tell her to check the project folder under Hollowgate Systems. Subsection Technical Requirements." Bate paused. "Randall. She says that folder's empty except for basic contact info." I nearly grinned. "That's because the technical specs were never digitized. They're in my notebook, the blue one from my desk, the one you took home yesterday." "The one I took home yesterday." Bate was silent for a long moment. "They're asking for you specifically." The CTO was excited to discuss the sensor calibration protocols you'd developed. "Wish I could help." At 10:45, Marcus called, the CEO himself. "Randall, I need you to come in. There's been a mix-up." "No mix-up. I was let go yesterday. Effective immediately," Jessica said. "Look, we can sort this out." Maybe Jessica acted rashly. Maybe she did. But I'm no longer an employee, Marcus. I can't legally represent Brimville in client meetings. As a consultant, then. Name your price. I'm booked, which was true. I had a phone interview with Driftshade Limited at 2 p.m. Their VP of Business Development had called personally after getting my resume that morning. By 11:30, Bate texted that the Hollowgate team had left. They'd given Jessica 20 minutes to produce the technical documents they'd specifically requested. When she couldn't, they politely excused themselves and said they'd reevaluate their options. Jessica called again at noon. I answered this time. "Randall, you have to help me. This is sabotage. This is consequences. I can report you for corporate sabotage. Withholding company information." "What information?" "I took my personal belongings from my office. The notebooks were mine. I bought them myself. All official company files are on the server. You know that's not how it works. Actually, it's exactly how it works. I was terminated without cause or notice. Brimville lost any claim to my cooperation. She hung up. 10 minutes later, security called, asking for the return of my company notebooks. I told them to review my employment contract. Personal notebooks purchased with my own money were my property. At 1:30, Helen called, laughing. Casey just texted. She saw Jessica on LinkedIn posting about bold new changes at Brimville. She's framing this as a positive shake-up. How's that going? 3 of your old clients already posted asking where you went. Word spreads fast in biotech. By 3 p.m., after a strong phone interview with Driftshade, I had my response to Jessica's sabotage accusation. This wasn't sabotage. Sabotage meant I'd actively worked to harm something. I'd done nothing but take my expertise with me when they pushed me out. Jessica's failure to learn how the department functioned was her choice. Firing the only person who understood the nuances of their biggest accounts was her decision. I'd spent 15 years building something valuable. Jessica had spent 15 minutes dismantling it. You can't rescue everyone, Randall. You can only decide your next move. Helen was right. Jessica had made her choices. Now she'd face the fallout. My focus was on making smarter decisions for my own path forward. Monday morning, I dressed in my finest suit and drove to Driftshade Limited's offices in downtown Kansas City. The interview exceeded my expectations. By midday, I had a formal offer, Director of Client Engagement, a 25% salary bump, comprehensive benefits, and a signing bonus that would cover Casey's college tuition for the next 2 years. I accepted immediately. Leaving their building, I felt a weight lift that I hadn't noticed in months, not because of the pay, because of the opportunities. Driftshade was expanding rapidly, securing deals with major pharmaceutical companies and research institutions. They needed someone who knew how to forge enduring client relationships in a cutthroat market. Someone exactly like me. My phone pinged with a text from Bait. Brimville stock fell 3% this morning. News about Hollowgate is spreading. I wasn't shocked. In biotech, reputation moves quickly. Lose one key client due to sloppy preparation, and others start doubting your competence. Jessica's modernization was looking more like ineptitude with each passing day. On Tuesday, the Kansas City Business Journal ran a short piece about Hollowgate Systems choosing Driftshade Limited for their biosensor project. The $30 million contract I'd spent 8 months crafting was now with my new employer. On Wednesday, Tom called with an update. Marcus sacked Jessica yesterday, effective immediately. How's the team coping? Mostly relieved. But there's talk of hiring another external consultant to evaluate department performance. I felt a twinge of sympathy for my former colleagues. They'd endured Jessica's short-lived tenure, but corporate overhauls are like a disease. Once they start, they're tough to stop. Tom, can I ask you something? Go ahead. Are you content at Brimville? A long pause, not really. Why? Driftshade is growing. They're seeking international business development experts. Someone with your skills and language abilities would be a great fit. Are you serious? I start Monday. If you're interested, I can arrange an interview. On Thursday, Patricia Holloway called with an intriguing proposal. Randall, we're considering launching a pharmaceutical consulting arm. We'd need someone to lead it. Someone with deep industry expertise and established connections. That's a major undertaking. We're ready to make substantial investments. The question is whether you know anyone who'd be interested in building something from scratch. I thought of Bait. Her mastery of regulatory compliance and her stifled ambitions. How Jessica had overlooked her for promotion 3 times. I might know someone. Friday afternoon, I drove to Brewster's Coffee House, the same spot where I'd watched Jessica's world unravel a week earlier. This time I was meeting Bait. Randall, I can't believe what you're offering. Believe it. Driftshade wants to create a pharmaceutical consulting division. You'd be the founding director, full control, competitive pay, and the chance to build something meaningful. What about Tom? He's already signed on, starts Monday as International Business Development Manager. Bait stared at her coffee for a long moment. Marcus offered me your old role yesterday, Head of Client Relations. Are you taking it? I was going to, until now. Brimville will survive. They'll hire someone new, rebuild what they lost. But it'll take years. And Driftshade? Driftshade is charging forward, with or without us. The question is whether we want to shape something new or repair something broken. She smiled for the first time in ages. When do I start? By week's end, Driftshade had hired 3 former Brimville employees. Not through headhunting or poaching, through opportunity. We weren't fleeing something. We were chasing something better. Jessica had taught us a crucial lesson about the difference between managing people and inspiring them. Now we had the chance to apply that lesson. 3 months later, I sat in a conference room at Driftshade's expanded offices, reviewing quarterly performance with Patricia Holloway and the leadership team. The figures were remarkable. Pharmaceutical consulting division up 200%. International contracts up 150%. Client satisfaction at record highs. Randall, your team has surpassed every goal we set, Patricia said. The Hollowgate project alone has sparked 5 new contract inquiries. Bate, now head of pharmaceutical consulting, smiled from across the table. The regulatory process went smoother than anyone anticipated. When clients see that kind of efficiency, word travels fast. Tom joined via video from Shanghai, where he was finalizing a deal with a major research hospital. The global expansion is ahead of schedule. We're eyeing 3 new markets next quarter. That afternoon, I received an unexpected email. Marcus Brimville wanted to meet for coffee. We met at Brewster's Coffee House. It felt fitting. Marcus looked older, more worn than I recalled. Randall, I owe you an apology, he said. I made a huge mistake with Jessica. HOW Chinese letter, how's Brimville holding up? Surviving. We lost 4 major clients after the Hollowgate mess, had to let go of 15 people. Stock price still hasn't recovered. He stirred his coffee slowly. Jessica cost us more than clients. She cost us institutional expertise. Relationships that took years to cultivate. You can rebuild, maybe, but it won't be the same. He looked up. I heard about your success at Driftshade, the pharmaceutical division, the global growth. That should have been Brimville's future. I stayed silent. There was little to say. Would you consider returning? I could offer you Jessica's role, VP of Operations, full control over client relations, business development, everything. I'm happy where I am, Marcus, double your current salary. It's not about the money. He leaned back. Then what is it about? Trust. When you brought in Jessica, you chose to believe relationships don't matter. That experience can be swapped for efficiency. That was your call. I was wrong. Yes, you were, but the damage is done. Your clients no longer trust Brimville. Your staff don't trust leadership. And honestly, I don't trust you to avoid repeating that mistake. Marcus left without finishing his coffee. Watching him leave, I felt something unexpected. Pity. He'd learned a costly lesson about the value of experience and loyalty. 6 months after my termination, Driftshade Limited announced a major acquisition. The pharmaceutical consulting assets of 3 smaller biotech firms, creating the largest independent consulting practice in the Midwest. I was named Senior Vice President of Strategic Growth. The news made the front page of the Kansas City Business Journal. The article noted my exit from Brimville, linking it to their recent struggles. Jessica, per her LinkedIn, had landed a job with a Denver startup. Her profile highlighted her expertise in organizational transformation and change management. No mention of Brimville or what her changes had actually achieved. The irony wasn't lost on me. In trying to prove relationships were irrelevant, she'd shattered the relationships that kept Brimville competitive. In trying to show experience was expendable, she'd eliminated the experience that made them valuable. Bate and Tom flourished in their new roles. The team we'd built at Driftshade was everything Jessica claimed modern business should be. Efficient, results-focused, and profitable. But we built it on mutual respect and shared expertise, not corporate jargon and reckless restructuring. Last week, Casey called from college with news that made it all worthwhile. Dad, my business professor used your story as a case study on the importance of institutional knowledge and relationship management. She called it the Brimville blunder. What did you tell her? That my dad always said the best revenge is thriving. Helen was right, as always. You can't save everyone. You can only control your next steps. 6 months later, Brimville's board ousted Marcus as CEO after repeated failed client acquisitions and growing financial losses. Jessica's Denver startup collapsed within 8 months, leaving her explaining the resume gap to increasingly wary employers. Her organizational transformation became a cautionary tale in business schools nationwide. Sometimes the sweetest victories are the ones where you don't have to lift a finger.